And welcome back to the week of Who Would Win, and happy Thanksgiving, everybody. I got a couple of videos to do today while dinner's getting ready. We're not going to be ready for a few hours, so I got time to do this. And from the Warrior, what's that song from? It's not Imagine Dragons. It's Here We Are, don't turn away now. We are the warriors who built this town. I can't remember who does that song. Is that Fall Out Boy? I want to say it's Fall Out Boy. I could be very wrong on that though. Good song though. Anyway, Korra for the Avatar who succeeded Aang versus Kisame Hoshigaki from Naruto, the tailless tail beast, one of the strongest of the seven swordsmen, wielder Samahada, and an overall beast of a character. This is one of those scenarios where I actually do have to really look at scaling and abilities, because this is not actually as easy as a matchup as you might think. One side's going to think Korra out the gate. The other side's going to think Kisame out the gate. But the fact of the matter is, it's a little bit more nuanced than that. We look at Korra, who was the Avatar who succeeded Aang. She actually mastered 3 out of the 4 elements before the series even began, and she even could use the Avatar state without any difficulty. Her biggest issue, though, was she couldn't learn airbending for whatever reason. Her mindset wasn't really tailored to airbending until after she lost all of her other bending due to Amon's doing, and it kind of like unlocked. I can't remember exactly what the rationale behind that was, but I think it was like her mind was finally in a place where she could accept it or something along those lines. Anyway, and then she got her bending back. She also, I believe, she did learn how to metal bend. She's just not that good of a metal bender. And then she became a kind of an embodiment of there's not that she became the embodiment, but she kind of merged with is it Vatu or the other one who is like the spirit that represents like light and goodness and all that. I can't remember which one is which. I didn't watch a lot of Korra. Korra is okay, but when you compare it to its predecessor, it's just not the same show. And that, to be fair, it shouldn't be the same show. It should be something different. But the route they took didn't work for me, particularly with the character of Korra. Korra is not a very likable character throughout a lot of the series, in my opinion. She's not like god-awful, but she's just not my Avatar. But Korra is a very capable fighter, and she's very, unlike Aang, she's very in your face, very aggressive, very physical. Like, she will also just trade hands with you instead of just doing bending. She is, obviously, water is her bread and butter, but she actually does like fire quite a bit, despite being her polar opposite. Water, and then earth, obviously, she's strong as well. Strong with as well. When you scale her to the power of something like all the other avatars, you are getting someone who, even before we get into the spirit world stuff, is a global threat. She's not going to be able to destroy the world with her own power, but she could raise cities, even maybe raise islands from the ocean floor. She can, destroy continents over time if she wanted to. She, in theory, is a global threat. It's just like long-term global threat. In terms of sheer attack potency, though, she's at minimum a city-level threat, minimum. If you're not, again, we've seen avatars like Kyoshi, who was arguably a weaker avatar with the Avatar state, move an entire island using magma and all that. We've seen Roku fight a volcano and it's at his weakest state. We've seen Aang literally raise the entirety of a valleyed landscape with no issues whatsoever. And Korra, and theoretically, each avatar, when they're using the avatar state, should be stronger than all the avatars that came before, because it's kind of like one for all in that way. All the experience, knowledge, and strength of all the previous avatars is coming towards that current avatar. So when you stack in a lineage that, I can't remember how many avatars there had been. I think there had been like dozens and dozens and dozens. You're talking about an amp that is insane. And then you go into the whole spirit realm stuff. That gets kind of weird, admittedly. But, and I believe her, like, amp with the spirit realm was temporary, because the bridge between the spirit world was basically shattered. Basically, the spirit world and the human world could interact with each other. That might be my loose knowledge of it. I could be dead wrong on that. Let me know if I am wrong on that. I'm perfectly willing to be wrong on that, to be honest. But yeah, she's insanely powerful. Kisame, we know, was known as the Tail's Tail Beast. He is the wielder of Samahata, and he is a massive threat. He is a master of water release, capable of literally summoning a lake's worth of water into one attack just by firing out of his mouth. He has a summoning contract with sharks. He also has shark-themed attacks because he's a shark-themed guy himself. He's a skilled swordsman, although I would argue not a master swordsman. Someone like Zabuza with a weapon the same size as Samahata is more of a master swordsman because its sword doesn't actually have a special ability that aids him in combat. It just regrows itself from drinking the iron in people's blood. Whereas Kisame Samahata is a sentient living weapon that shaves and tears and eats chakra. But he doesn't actually have a lot of skill with the blade in terms of like swordsmanship. That's not to say he's a bad swordsman. It's just to say that it's the easiest weapon to theoretically use if it chooses you. Because all you gotta do is go tap and it eats chakra. That's all you got. And not granted, he more prefers to like shave and cut and shred the ribbons. Beyond that, he also he can merge with Samahata to basically heal himself up with all the chakra that Samahata eats. He can merge with Samahata to basically turn into a hybrid shark form and breathe underwater, which he does the jutsu where it's like a water bubble which just moves with the opponent. And also still has all the chakra absorbing abilities of Samahata. I'm trying to think if he has any other like straight ability. Like he doesn't have any other straight abilities, though he can hide in Samahata as well if he needs to. He's a physical powerhouse. That's the other thing. He is a physical powerhouse. Arguably, I think the physically strongest of the Akatsuki, save for maybe Kakuzu. But that's arguable with Kakuzu because he's got physical amps like the Grudge Sphere. But I'd say just in terms of straight physicality, it's either him or Kakuzu are the physically strongest two strongest individuals. I remember, that's actually a really good question. Maybe that's one thing I'll actually do. I'll do a video statting the Akatsuki. I mean, we have like data book entries on them, but with feats kind of some feats argue against like data book entry, so maybe I'll do like a video statting the Akatsuki and figure out who is the actual strongest Akatsuki members. That might be fun to do at some point, but not today or this week. Again, the weeks of who wins and what its weeks are just so packed as they are. I don't have time for extra videos. So only like birthday videos aside, which I do have a birthday video to do later on. But yeah, Kisame is powerful. He was one of the strongest Akatsuki members. I'd argue out of the core 9, well, take Orochimaru the equation, and Madara, who was hiding in the wing. Or let's just say out of the Akatsuki, I mean, Nagata's stronger than him. I think that's safe to say. Itachi, we know Kisame considered him stronger. Obito is stronger. Madara's not a part of the Akatsuki. We can't actually count that. But otherwise, if you were to say put him against any of the other Akatsuki members, he probably would win the fight. Konan is powerful, though. She's shockingly powerful, despite having a very unique technique that doesn't seem powerful. I do think he'd beat Deidara as long as C0 or C4? I can't remember the microscopic one. As long as that one doesn't come into play, I think he'd win that. Sasori, I think he'd definitely beat. Kakuzu, I feel confident he would beat. If we were talking about back in the day with Orochimaru, I actually argue he's got a good shot against Orochimaru, just because of Samehata and the level. He has far more chakra than Orochimaru. But at least at that point, down the road, Orochimaru became more stronger than Kisame. But that's actually a good versus 2 at some point. Orochimaru versus Kisame, who would have won at that time? Either way, we're not here to lament about ideas for other videos. We're here to talk about who wins in the fight. And this is where it gets tricky because, yes, let's break down the advantages each of these guys have. Korra, she's not using chakra-based attacks, first and foremost. All she's doing is throwing the elements at him. Now, there might be some level of chakra in there, because we do talk about chakras in Avatar, but they talk about it in the Buddhist sense of the term, the true spiritual sense of it, the chakras, not chakra network. But that being said, we also know that the 8 gates also kind of represent that as well. Not in the same way, but they do kind of represent that. So it's safe to say that maybe with something like fire bending. There might be a little bit of chakra in there, but we also know that Samahata doesn't absorb nature chakra. Samahata does not like doing that at all. In fact, it's actually very hazardous to Samahata's health. So, yeah, right out the gate, her biggest advantage is she's not throwing chakra attacks at Kisame. She's throwing the straight elements at him, which would be problematic. The other problem for Kisame is any water moves he throws at her, she's just going to bend right back. So that's problematic as well. And that really is the biggest problem for Kisame in this fight, is even just closing the distance. However, despite the fact that essentially all of his water moves are going to basically be kind of null and void, unless it's like a water clone and she's not aware of it, he is the more durable of the two of them. He can take far more hits. She is still susceptible to Samahata herself. Even using, say, the Avatar state wouldn't make her immune to Samahata. He has also got decades more combat experience, and he's a ninja, which I think plays a big factor in this fight as well. The reason for that is if he would know how to close the distance against a long-range opponent. We also know he can hide under the ground and basically use a technique to travel under the ground if he needs to. Now, she, I believe, does have seismic sense, so that could prevent that. But the minute he gets like a hit in on her, she is going to be in some level of trouble. But again, the fact is she can fire any earth, wind, water, or fire attack at him that he can't absorb. That is problematic. Now, he can counter fire and probably some of these elemental attacks with his own elemental attacks. But now he's just giving her ammo to use back against him. Speed-wise, I mean, we don't have a really good speed feat for Kisame. He did dodge the electric pencil from Killer B, which is impressive, because that was moving far fast. It wasn't probably moving at true lightning speed, but it was moving at a pseudo lightning speed. True lightning chakra is not, or lightning chakra is not as fast as true lightning. Zetsu and the Zetsus even, they pointed out when Sasuke uses Kirin. It says it's going to be a completely different level. Still, he did dodge that without, I think he did get like cut on the cheek, but still, he's got good reflexes. My question just for Kisame is going to be, can he ever close the distance in this fight? Against the fire, the water, and the wind, I really don't think he's going to feel that pressured. Hell, if anything, he's just going to manipulate the water right back at her. Now, granted, between the two of them, he's got the bigger limitation theoretically, because his chakra is not infinite. But he has so much of it, it's like he's a tail beast. He's described as the tailless tail beast. So I'd actually say unless she's using the Avatar state, and even then, she can only use it for so long, she might actually tire out, just because we know people tire out in the Avatar all the time, and bending does take effort. So you can just physically tire out. I actually think she physically tires out before he runs out of chakra. So in a battle of attrition, he's definitely going to have the edge. And if she feels that's the case, and she's starting to tire out and he's not waning at all, she's going to go straight into Avatar state. So the question now just simply becomes, can Kisame survive Korra in the Avatar state? Ooh, there's a good chance he doesn't. Even if he merges with Samahata for recovery capability, even if he puts her in the water dome, if she's in the Avatar state, that water dome means jack shit. Like, this boat, it's going to move with you. You can't escape it. Is that a fact? Just, he falls to the ground. And basically, she would like try to skewer him with water, but it wouldn't do anything. But then she just throw all the elements kind of like Aang does at him. He might not make it out of that one. As durable, and even with Samahata's healing factor, he might not make it out of that. So, while I love my boy Kisame, I do. And I do think there are ways he can win. Especially if he's able to close the gap at least once and get a good just gash in with Samahata. Drain her energy. And honestly, legit, one cut from Samahata, and I mean like a good, not just like a tap. I mean like a, one real good hit from Samahata, and Korra is immediately on the back foot and in trouble. Because A, energy just transmission. She's going to be weakened. Beyond that, though, the amount of damage Samahata would do to her, because she's physically fit. Let's not doubt that. But she's also got twig arms comparatively to Samahata. And if Samahata gets a good chunk of her body off, she's bleeding out. Like, yeah, she'd have to water bend, maybe stop the bleeding as best she could. But that level of damage in a fight, she's not going to be able to come back from that easy. She would already honestly have to probably take her arm off, cauterize the wound, and keep going. And that means she is at a supreme disadvantage at that point, because now half of her ability to bend, well, half her ability, a chunk of her ability to bend is gone. And bloodlust, not good for her. So I think there are scenarios where that can happen. Absolutely. Kisame is skilled enough. He has got the experience. He's got the stamina and endurance, and he's got a weapon that is problematic. He can do that. But I'm not going to mince words. Korra does have the overwhelming advantage in a lot of this fight. I see this basically in a scenario where Kisame, maybe one of the Jinchuriki has been kind of hiding out with Korra, and Korra just is there to protect him, and the fight begins. He throws water jutsu at her. She just counters back. He tries to hide underground. She senses him, nearly crushes him, but he gets out of there. He nearly brings down Samahata Ana. She uses airbending to blow him back. There's a trade for a while. Eventually, he summons out his the water shark prison, or not water shark prison, but the prison. He's also, now that being said, he does have one final technique I didn't bring up, which is I can't remember the name of it, but it's like a giant chakra absorbing water shark, which is impressive. Problem is, she's not using chakra, so it's just like slice. Here, have it back. That is really the thing. He's just up against someone who can manipulate one of his strongest assets like that. If she could not bend water, let's just take all the other elements out of the equation. If she could not bend water, I'd be much more inclined to give this to him. But the fact is, she can just bend every one of his water attacks. As far as I know, I think the only style of or elemental style he has is Earth, and even then, that's not all that great in this fight, because she can just bend it back. And he's not even that good of an Earth style user. I think the biggest one he used was, again, that hiding under the ground swimming technique. So yeah, I would actually have to give this to Korra personally. You'd have to go into higher level tier Naruto characters, or at least Naruto characters that use something other than elemental jutsu. Like if this were Guy versus Korra, I'm leaning towards Guy 1000%. If this were even Jiraiya or Orochimaru or Nagato or Itachi, someone who had a bit more nuance to their kit, like Genjutsu, or just unique moves that aren't necessarily bendable, now we'd be having a completely different conversation. But sadly, we're not. We got the water shark, and I don't think he gets the vast majority of wins. I think he gets a couple, but otherwise, I'm going to give it to Korra. But look, it's just my opinion. Let me know what you think. Till then, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Like, comment, share, subscribe, and I'll see you for the next one.